Wait, you have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hey everybody, welcome to TV Guidance Counselor, the show where I can read. On hiatus stand-up comedian and longtime podcast host, talk about classic television using back issues of TV Guide magazine as the gateway into our collective past. This week, my guest is a legend in the world of punk rock, of just pop culture, really. Mr. Jello Biafra. Jello's a guy that I've known for a few years and I've been trying to get on the show. We've tried to hook up when I've been in Colorado and in San Francisco, and it just hasn't worked out. So thankfully, due to lockdown, we're both at home. We can do these things remotely, and we did. We talk about television here, and he is incredibly insightful. If you are unfamiliar with his musical work, get familiar with it. But he is also a spoken word artist. He's got a new album out that is music. He also appears in so many documentaries because he knows about just an enormous range of things. We talk about one of them here called Bathtubs Over Broadway, which is amazing and you should see. It's about sort of novelty industrial records. He's a massive record collector, which you will hear in this episode. And it was a lot of fun talking to him. So please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor with my guest, the one and only Jello Biafra.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Jello Biafra, how are you, sir?
Hi, everybody. Look how big my hand gets. This Zoom camera thing. Now I was finally forced to knuckle under and become part of the Zoom generation.
It is strange how we've adopted these various technologies in our global pandemic.
I didn't think to actually put the camera way above my ugly mug and then display some more knickknacks. So
I've done a bunch of these, so I figured out the secrets.
Didn't you say you were alerted by the Bathtubs Over Broadway people over there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love that. When you come out with the plunger at the end, that was the best twist ending I've seen in a long time.
The thing that's still in my phone was when we had to record that song we sing at the end, we had to record it the night before, so they had something ready for us to lip sync to when they shot the scene the next day. And so I was recording my part right before the two women from the Bathrooms Are Coming, the American Standard Toilet Company convention album came on, and to do their part. And so we all got around the mic in the studio and sang, "My bathroom, my bathroom. Oh my."
Did you shoot that on the Paramount lot?
Warner Brothers.
Oh, Warner Brothers. Okay.
Yeah. I recognize that street we marched down and so many other things, even black and white film noirs. Oh my God, there's my plumbing store again. Are you going to die in front of it in this movie?
Yeah, it's so weird, having grown up watching all that stuff, when you go visit one of those backlots, even if you've never been there, you're like, I feel like I've been here 1,000 times and I never have. This is weird.
Oh, yes, you have. Oh, yeah. I hope if they do a DVD with bonus stuff or a Blu-ray, on my phone is me and the two women singing my bathroom in the studio and stuff. It's awesome. And then the other funny thing was that for how it's hurry up and wait with those movies, they put you in a little trailer and eventually they're ready to shoot your scene and all. And me and those two spunky women and Don Bowles were a foursome in a trailer.
That's a sitcom right there. I'd watch that.
Me and experienced Don.
So speaking of experiences in sitcom pilots, because that would have been a golden one, when I asked you what issue you wanted to do, you said 1966 or 1968. So I grabbed you one here from October 1st to the 7th, 1966. And I was pretty fascinated looking through this. I think you said you hadn't got a chance to take a look yet.
So we're going to go through it together if I can. Oh, and you got to do the scroll, I guess.
That's
Don't
right.
scroll yet. Look at that top cover here. And actually scroll it down so I can see that top headline that you and I are both blocking now. very top of the TV guide, right by the logo?
Oh, the Vietnam War one?
Read it to me.
It says, the Vietnam War is TV giving us the picture.
Well, let's put it this way. This was when those TV networks was still independently owned and took pride in their news divisions. They did muck raking. They were trying to outscoop each other. One of them, it might have been CBS, even did the selling of the Pentagon towards the end of the Vietnam War and stuff. And really gnarly war footage and wounded soldiers. Yeah, it was going in on TV news. Prime news, and I watched the news even as a 6-year-old. I watched a cartoon show or two before that. I didn't just come home and watch them all day. I didn't even realize I could do that, and didn't really want to anyway. See a couple cartoons, and then the news would come on, and I watched both with equal fascination. I'm told my favorite characters at the time were Bullwinkle and Senator Everett Dirksen, the Republican minority leader with a hair out to here and stuff, who tangled with the Johnson administration and everything else. I mean, his nephew, Dirk Dirksen, ran Mabuhay Gardens, where Dead Kennedys first played as well.
Oh, wow.
Thing alike, but apparently they were related.
It skips a generation.
The media back then, it wasn't corporate McNews yet. They really were getting the story. They wanted to get the story. And you saw what war really was, with all the blood everywhere and everything else, and the starving Biafra babies lying all over the ground in the Biafra War, when that part of Nigeria tried to break off, where I got my name from, became a universally recognized, symbol or metaphor for genocide or starvation, squalor and stuff. Then, when Reagan got in and deregulated hostile takeover laws, just follow the editions of the Ben Bigdickian book, The Media Monopoly, on how slowly but surely the very corporations that didn't like what independent news networks were saying about them bought the networks, sometimes with hostile takeovers. So after a while, Disney had editorial control over NBC News, and General Electric had editorial control over NBC News. And even now, like it or not, Rachel Maddow works for Comcast.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
And so the news has been deliberately dumbed down ever since. You used to get a bunch of different stories. They had bureaus all over the world, and we're happy to pay for it because the news wasn't supposed to make a profit. It was supposed to have the most kick-ass news department of anybody in the world. We're better than you, CBS. We're better than you, ABC. Look what we found out. You don't get an award. Out every single one. Okay, here's another picture of Donald Trump. Here's some dumb thing he said today. And here's our panel of experts, straight from ex-Republican National Committee people or modeling agencies, depending on whether or not they got a sleeveless dress on. And they're going to pretend to know what they're talking about. And that's the only story you're going to get the entire day. Those thousands of children ripped from their parents by the very same stormtroopers who attacked Portland later, Trump's private Gestapo. What happened to those kids? They're not even talking about them anymore. Yeah. And they talk about, Trump is making elections like pro wrestling. They've been like pro wrestling for a long time since the media got bought out and dumbed down. Oh, look. Amy Klobuchar, look how the money she raised. Don't look at what she says or her voting record. How much money did she raise? Oh, this is why Kamala Harris was a great choice for Biden. 48 million in 48 hours. That's how you measure. Well, no, actually, it's not. I have a long memory for these things. And I was a news hound even when I was in kindergarten. I saw Oswald get shot live on the little black and white TV. Berlin Wall go up, and thankfully, and as much as we fought about some stuff over time, but it all got better as soon as I moved away, I'm really grateful that my parents didn't shield me from this stuff. How many kids were even allowed to watch the news? And they would even eat dinner sometimes. This was going on, first the local and then the Huntley-Brinkley report on NBC, one of the others. I apparently had imitations of both of them, and even in fix. This stuff was discussed with the kids. You don't hide it from the kids or change the channel to something nice that's not going to upset the children. No, you upset the children so they understand what's going on, have feelings about it. John Lewis dies, and they show some of that footage from Selma and Birmingham. And I remembered the dogs and the fire hoses from when I was a little boy, seeing that live on the news. Then my mother chiming in saying, I just don't understand why anybody would try and hurt somebody else because of the color of their skin. And that resonated with me right there. It's like, I don't understand it either. This is really upsetting me. This is wrong. And so I had very strong opinions at a very early age about these things. Divisive as Trump-a-muck or Trumpsy, depending on which name I want to use with him, as divisive as he is, Nixon was worse. Vietnam, right on the cover of TV Guide when Nixon was in there. Okay, Johnson was still there, was still his war, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Another half of the outer cover of this particular TV Guide, we have what's supposed to entice you to buy Benson and Hedges cigarettes. And I'm not sure they even existed except for really long ones before, but 3 puffs, 4 puffs, maybe 5 puffs, longer than king size. How long can you go? Longer than king size. And this is why you're supposed to buy this thing. And as I was saying before we roll, I mean, what Benson and Hedges means to me is I knew one Benson and Hedges smoker in my entire life, and that was Melissa Weber, who was that voice at the beginning and the end of Dead Kennedy's Plastic Surgery Disasters album. You know, why are you such a stupid asshole? Would you really like to know? And then at the very end, return to your job on a lock groove in the original vinyl edition. And good friend, very strange woman, too. And she grew up in D.C. society. So, boy, did she have stories. But she was one of the first victims of fentanyl. That makes 2 very dear friends of mine, Dave Brocky from Guar being the other one, killed by a drug that never should have been on the market. You know, back when this TV Guide came out, the Food and Drug Administration actually, it hadn't been Reaganized yet. It hadn't been corporatized, privatized to rubber stamp every dangerous or useless drug imaginable without really looking at the damn thing. But later on, I think it was a W. Bush era maybe, or maybe Clinton, where they rubber stamped fentanyl. That never should have been allowed on the market, and now look where we are. Melissa Weber had back trouble, and she had a fentanyl patch. It'd come on the market. This will help you. She puts one on, and that particular night she could not sleep, wasn't working. She put a second one on, and she never woke up again. So, open casket funeral, too, where she didn't look anything like herself. But down she went into a grave with her 2 grown children there, and her daughter, his little piece of humorous touch that Melissa would have liked, made sure to toss a pack of Benson and Hedges in the coffin before everything was done.
Were they king size?
They were menthol king.
Oh.
I don't think there's actual prince size or peasant size for Benson and Hedges, because I never saw them except these long ones. I mean, before they banned them on TV, I mean, isn't it creepy that I remember this stuff like Vietnam and the assassinations and everything so well? And a lot of people my age, I'm 62 now, they don't have any tangible memory of it at all, which kind of scares me in a way, and why history repeats itself. But however, if I sing them something from back then, like Winston tastes good like a cigarette should, or you've got your own cigarette now, baby. You've come a long, long way. Virginia Slims, the fake feminist cigarette that was supposed to be for the ladies. That was like, and then there was what, I can't remember whose 100 length was like, you know, they ran off with something from Trini Lopez or Richie Valens or whatever. Silly millimeter longer, 101, silly millimeter. I remember all these, and other people did too, even though they don't remember anything that happened to all of us at school back then. I have vivid memories of kindergarten. I have vivid memories of before kindergarten. Why don't they? Because they watch too much TV and too much of the wrong kind of TV. Thank you very much. I mean, the worst of all, and I got to get away away from these cigarette commercials, but remember the one that actually bent and swiveled like it was supposed to be some chick in a strip bar or something hopping on somebody's desk? Taste me, come on and taste me.
I was looking through a TV guide from 1970 the other day for another episode, and there was literally a cigarette ad. I forget what the brand was, but the tagline was, cigarettes and women are both best when they're rich and thin. And it was like, what?
Surprise. Here's one for you. Winston Smith, who does the art on a lot of my albums, including the new one, Tea Party Revenge Porn, that isn't quite out yet. Wait till you see what that one looks like, let alone sounds like. But I even made video clips for it for the first time in my entire life. There's official Jello Biafra music videos. Best part is I don't appear in them at all. It's like video Winston Smith stuff. It's just a bunch of images to ever so unsubtly drive home the points I'm trying to make. But Winston has a huge collection for his collages of old Life magazines and others. And he showed me this big old ad. It was either a Life or a Look ad or something. And it was 4 out of 5 doctors say Chesterfields are the healthiest cigarettes for you on the market. Smoke these because they're healthy. Guess who was holding the packet of cigs?
Reagan?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
You guessed it.
Yeah, it's insane how this really wasn't that long ago.
This in different forms now. Who is on these committees that sits around, okay, here's some new wonder drug that we got rubber stamped by the FDA through our own study that we just made up on the spot. What are we going to call it? Should we call it Epclusa? Should we call it Xanax? I mean, who decides what each of these things are supposed to be named and stuff? I've read one place that it's actually one woman who decides all of them for everybody. But God, I want that job.
Yeah, it's like Scrabble letters you just got.
Prince changed his name to a symbol. I was trying to think of, okay, if I meet this guy and this is his name, what is going to be? Hey, Winkle Squink, how you doing? Lupio.
You're naming drugs now with ways you would pronounce Prince's name.
Your name and drugs. Oh, God, that's great. Jello X. What should Jello X cure? Trump worship.
Yeah. Delusions of grandeur.
Jello X, so you can shit all that Trump damage and poison out of your system.
We get a review of the show Shane here.
In that cartoon, Shane looks like a blonde-haired, dyed female African-American.
He does. He looks a bit like Janice from The Muppet Show, the bass player from the band.
I mean, what I'm looking at, complete with the furry fluff and the hat, it's not Beyonce. It's not Rihanna. It has to have one name. Okay, now that single songwriters, usually white ones, are going by one name that's actually kind of icky or dumb, like getting rid of my real last name, which admittedly only 2 teachers ever pronounced right, and calling me, what am I going to call myself? I'm this cute ingenue selling millions of, I'm going to call myself Grimes. Where did we come up with that? Okay, here's our new one. She's got the fluffy thing. She's got the cowboy hat and those lips. Cleveland.
The guy who wrote that review, his name is Cleveland Armory, and that's his real name. I didn't believe it. I looked it up.
Actually, okay, go back. We haven't seen this yet. You're never going to get this.
Oh, no.
The Commodore go around pinching cigarettes. This is, and he's not pinching a loaf. He's pinching cigarettes, Waterford.
And they're supposed to have tiny water capsules in the tip of every Waterford.
I love this thing at the bottom. I mean, imagine Tipper Gore later on, if she found a lyric inside one of my songs or Motley Crue or one of her other targets, when later they went all racist and went after Ice-T and Public Enemy and everything. Look at this button. Can I pinch a Waterford? What do you think that means, Tipper? And what are we going to do to put parental advisory on this person's catcher's mask when he's running around calling himself Buster Posey? If that line, I'm going to Buster Posey, was in a Motley Crue song, Tipper would want him in prison.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. She would not be pinching Waterfords. There's no way.
I think she had more to do with costing her husband the 2000 election than Ralph Nader could have if he wanted to.
Rightly so.
What was the youth vote? That bitch cost him that. Now look where we're at. Okay, now more bodybuilding protein than a peanut butter sandwich and more carbs too. Shit, that's Boyardee, right?
Oh yeah, bite-sized beef pies.
I discovered, well, my girlfriend who's at the screen helped us set this up the other day. She told me, much to my utter shock, Chef Boyardee still exists.
Oh, it certainly does. And this kid does not look happy. That's the funniest part, is they've presumably tried to make this ad look like this kid is enjoying it, and this was the best they could do.
Yeah, this is the same kind of kid that now would be forced by their stagehands to go, 1877 cars for kids. Donate your car today. Quite possibly the worst ad and the worst song in history.
Do you know what that company does?
Tell me. I think I know, but tell me.
It's a quote unquote charity, but they just save money to send Jewish kids to Israel for like their birthright thing, to like visit all the sites.
It's more than that, because I looked it up too. I just want to see what you said, because they have a newer ad now where apparently they're not telling you to donate your house to them too anymore. But they were so full on the first time, and it was like, oh, and to talk about donating your house, like first they want my car, then they want my house. They say it's for these icky, obviously super well scrubbed stage parent modeling agency kids. Who are these people? So I looked them up too. And yeah, I mean, okay, I'll let them off the hook if they're trying to help homeless kids. They're trying to feed kids who aren't getting enough to eat. There's a lot of that going on. Maybe they could be doing COVID-19 tests or, helping educate kids or getting them on the net if their parents don't have the money. No, as you say, the purpose is to get secular Jewish children to be more orthodox.
Right.
I had not heard anything about taking them to visit the settlements, although that wouldn't surprise me. And if I'm not mistaken, there is anywhere from 2 to 4 or more states where they're legally forbidden to solicit money on the grounds that the charity is a fraud.
Yeah. Yeah. But
so next time you see that ad, and now they've redone it again too, with even more Aryan looking kids and stuff in it. Even more cutie. Well, the parent just asking, no, smile more, God damn it. You'll never be the next John Benet Ramsey unless you stop wetting your pants.
So as we move on, there's a long article here that's probably difficult to read on screen, but it's actually a very good, well-written article about, this is the first in a series about all the stuff they're showing in Vietnam on the nightly news, and how this is the first war that did not go through a government agency to make films like World War II did. This is sort of unfiltered news footage, and we're seeing the horrors on the TV and how that's affecting them.
Their lesson. I mean, Gulf War goes down. You're not going to show that anymore. Iraq invasion, any of W. Bush's things, those Abu Ghraib pictures got out, but it wasn't because of corporate McNews. You wouldn't even know about those little kids being Abu Ghraibed along the border with Mexico unless it was guerrilla journalists. What about that anonymous patriot who saved us from Mitt Romney by just setting their phone down as he was going on and on about 47% of the country, us, are freeloaders, when he came right out and said with venom in his mouth, they think they're entitled to health care. They think they're entitled to food.
Yeah, it's weird how these things have shifted, and it's the technology.
2012 was not a pro-Obama vote; it was an anti-Romney vote by then. And that thing, along with Occupy, thank you, Occupy, illuminating inequality to the point where even corporate McNews had to talk about it. Obama owed his second term to Occupy, as well as that patriot with the phone, because once that was in place, Romney scared the shit out of people.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's funny how it's a visual thing. That's what changed. Well, what used to change it for people. If they, you could tell them all day, but when they see it, it's a different thing.
Oh, I love this headline. TV Guide goes to the battlefront to report on how television is covering its first war, and how well. TV Guide goes to the battlefront. Imagine going up to soldiers who've already been through all kinds of unspeakable stuff on a daily basis. Hi, I'm from TV Guide. Can I talk to you?
What are you watching out here?
What kind of drugs do they put in our food today?
Yeah. What LSD test are we trying to turn on each other?
Heroin from those Laotian warlords. Cut a body bag back open. We can't send this to the States. Somebody says they're from TV Guide. I'm seeing things. Now we've got an ad. Oh, they don't make this one anymore. Animist. Need more nasal relief? Dial it. Oh, if only I could. Go on.
I don't know what awful carcinogens in that thing.
Philco Color TV looks blah-de-blah. This unretouched photo was right off the picture tube, but then it was retouched to print it in TV Guide. So, okay, their color sep isn't too bad, but, I art direct all my albums. I know these things. Arm & Hammer Baking Soda. Well, at least they're not interfering with Crest and Colgate and pointing out you brush your teeth with that and hydrogen peroxide. It cleans them a lot better. Oh, and then on the other side, false teeth, hurt, slip. Oh, I remember all the Polident ads, but I could never figure out what it was at the time. I don't think I ever asked my parents what a denture was. So
this is a great ad here.
Can Viewmaster really help your youngster get better grades? I certainly doubt it. What are they going to look at in there?
Just 3D Winnie the Pooh.
Did they make any of those little Viewmaster discs with porn in them?
They did.
There you go.
And there are people that make them now. There are people who 3D print pornographic Viewmaster slides. Yeah,
to show it on what a pretentious indie artist I am. My new album's coming out only on film strip.
With the beeps and everything.
Yeah. The editor. What are people writing letters about?
Oh, let's go back up.
You want to write a letter to TV Guide.
Yeah, 1966, you might have want to write a letter. This is the entire letter for this one. Hooray for Richard Mulligan and good old-fashioned belly laughs in The Hero. That's the whole letter.
Well, in other words, that person's perfect for Twitter.
Yes, that's true. And there's a person who likes the monkeys here.
I don't know what Stage 67 on ABC is, but it says a combination of the Three Stooges, Keystone Cops, and a bad imitation of Naked City. The only good drama was the commercials. I want to see that one.
Yeah, that's a really good review in my eyes.
City was a great show, though. Some of the same screenwriters as Route 66. So you get real people with really heavy-duty problems portrayed by real actors and up-and-comers, as well as others who had a name who wanted to be on those shows. It's not as though Lee Marvin was desperate for work when he was on Route 66. It's just like, this is good acting, this is good stuff. I want to be on this show.
Yeah, that's a great show.
Now, do you?
So let's go. I'll move into primetime here. We'll see if there's anything that strikes your fancy on Saturday night, October 1st, 1966.
Go back, it's Saturday, man. Go back to Saturday morning.
Saturday morning?
I didn't discover the cartoons till much later and started watching the superheroes ones because I liked the villains.
We start off with Davey and Goliath at 8:15, the world's greatest claymation Christian show.
I didn't see any of that. Claymation Christian show.
Yeah, it's
okay. Keep going. None of this is really making sense here. Man's medical knowledge. Football highlights. Oh my God! For college football, Central Connecticut College meets Springfield College at Pratt Field. With one announcer. God, I'll bet that would be a funny one. It might be better than Hoppity Hooper or Junior Candlepin Bowling.
This is a Boston issue where Candlepin Bowling reigned.
God, I'd rather be doing that as a kid than being forced to be in a Cars for Kids ad.
We should start a new charity to send kids Candlepin Bowling.
Yeah, saves it from winding up like Jean Bonnet. I remember Cool McCool. I saw that one.
Cool McCool was Adam West.
Oh, really? Was that one of the same people who did Bullwinkle and George of the Jungle? And was that crew?
Yep, it was.
Good.
And it was
there's Rocky and his friends. I thought Rocky was a girl. Well,
he was later. Frankenstein Jr. is on, and I love that show.
Never heard of that. I say it was about 3 or 4 years later, I had a brief morning cartoon phase and stuff. And again, watching for the villain, there was Samson and Goliath, there was Johnny Quest, and above all, the one that was the most unforgettable was Spider-Man. And not just because that was the one God, that would be so cool to be able to travel like that and just shoot a web up in the air off an imaginary screen. It'll somehow latch itself onto the clouds or somebody's secondhand cigarette smoke, and I can keep flying along. They had cool villains, and in the 60s one, not the Ralph Bakshi one, that was the next one. The 60s one, the incidental music, was really good. I still remember a lot of it. It was my first exposure to what would later be called surf instrumentals and stuff, as well as a da 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 da. That was awesome. That was maybe one of the first movie music influences crept into my own writing. I don't know. And once and only once I found on somebody's 45s for sale list, somebody pressed a bootleg 7-inch recorded off a TV speaker the Spider-Man theme. Always goes over well when DJing, I might add.
Oh, I bet.
I'd love to cover that and have Fetus do the music.
Oh, that'd be amazing. Just like apocalyptic swing music going on.
Yeah, I mean, the Ramones didn't do bad, but he knows how to do horns and synthetic horns really well.
Yeah. That song, was it Slung that he did on the record in the 90s, like a 12-minute swing song?
Well, there were several of those over the years. I mean, that was a huge influence on him. Magilla Gorilla, that was an afternoon cartoon show where I was before. It was like Yogi Bear and Pixie and Dixie and Magilla Gorilla, which I didn't like as much as the Hanna-Barbera cartoons, but what could you do? Keep going. We're kind of, evening now. There's, my God, some show called Pistols and Petticoats.
I saw that immediately, too.
And Lon Chaney Jr. was one of the guests. I hope he got his lines wrong, so he went up to the petticoat cowboy, or I hope it's a cowboy, and said, "I'm worried I might be turning into a werewolf."
Well, this was definitely when he was at the height of his alcoholism, and he's playing an Native American in this, which is weird. Have you ever seen that footage of Lon Chaney Jr. playing Frankenstein in that live TV broadcast? He thinks it's a rehearsal, but it's live. So he's a little in the bag. And so there's parts where he's like picking up a rock to smash it, and then he like gently puts it back down because he thinks it's a rehearsal. It's very weird.
Yeah, strings attached to the jaws of the giant spider. I went through that phase later, too. And then my mother sat and watched them with me once because I was, 12 or 13, getting into those, maybe an 11. And she was worried about, they wouldn't even let me watch Star Trek because they thought it was too violent. Bleeding hearts, gotta love them. But,
but the news was okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, it was reality. You could talk about things and stuff. Make sure you had a really anti-racist, anti-war, pro-environmental kid and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, she watched them with me to see what is this doing to my child? Oh my God, these movies are ridiculous. And that's why he's watching them. Okay, fine. Good. Oh, there was the Tarzan with Ron Ely in it. I remember the episode where somebody made a mechanical dinosaur and scared the hell out of the kid and stuff. I wonder how they portray the natives in that show.
Oh, I'm sure terribly.
They're at a point where they probably can't ever show that show again now. There's Honey West they didn't know about at the time. But
I love that show.
I've seen a little bit of it, but it's like my favorite of those shows from back then would be like, Perry Mason, I found out about as a kid. I thought because it was every night on the independent one on Channel 2 out of Denver, I thought, this must be their talk show competitor to Mike Douglas or Merv Griffin or one of them. And then I said, no, this is something else you might like. And I was hooked immediately on that one. And then much later, as an adult, discovered the Untouchables and first saw it at somebody's place, was laughing at, how straight the G-men were against illegal beer. And then saw one later when I was more of a film noir buff and realized, oh my God, this is really well made. And both Perry Mason and the Untouchables and the other big favorite, Hawaii Five-0, part of the key to them is that they are an hour. They're not 30 minutes. And so then when I explored back further to Peter Gunn and M Squad and Honey West and what's the John Cassavetes?
Johnny Staccato.
Yeah. My God, if only these shows had a chance to actually develop their goddamn plots and stuff. And now I've gotten a little more accustomed to it where, now I'm digging Peter Gunn. I actually had a binge of him a while back ongoing and had a Johnny Staccato one. I kind of bought the DVD set without ever seeing the show just because I thought the soundtrack album was so good. I mean, it's Elmer Bernstein, right? When he did Man with a Golden Arm and Sweet Smell of Success and all that. How can you go wrong?
Yeah, because it's John Cassavetes as like a jazz playing detective and 50s sort of. Yeah, it's great.
Well, they tried to make Peter Gunn the jazz detective, but I don't know whether Cassavetes was onto it at the same time. They came out and then you had two of them. Of course, Cassavetes was in a much cooler place. No offense to Mothers and the... wooden actress who couldn't sing that well, that was his girlfriend, who later claimed that the character was not supposed to be able to sing that well, and she actually could sing better. She was mainly a Vegas singer and stuff. I think she only made one album. There was some Lola Albright. Okay, on we go. There's the football games. Oh, valuable information. Oh, this is a survey for safe drivers.
Yep.
Oh, well. I'm not a safe driver. What can you do for me? By sinus congestions due to cold, you need cocaine.
Contact.
Oh, right. Do they still make that shit or not?
I don't think so. Not in the U.S. at least. They may ship it out to other countries.
That was banned in our house because it knocked you out and stuff. Okay. Oh, there's a show that says Country and Western is the name of the show and music is the description.
Yeah, there's so many music shows on it.
That's an accurate description and not the commercial pop country we all loathe that Hank 3 wrote the Dick Back in Dixie song about.
1966, it might have still been decent country. Ish.
Well, I mean, there was some good and there was a lot that, we avoid like the plague. And that's kind of what the Nashvilleans, the establishment, push on people to this day.
Yeah, I always say modern country is like someone heard pop music and went, can we do this with no trace of blackness?
And no trace of anything, even 70s hippies or Eagle-y stuff. The Garth Brooks school is a lot like where country rock wound up and stuff. Again, some of that is good, but we know the good stuff. I mean, I still like the roots here. So I like Wayne the Train. I like Hank 3. I like Junior Brown a lot.
Oh, Junior Brown's amazing. Speaking of surf guitar, he's unbelievable.
Oh, I saw him once really going off at a show in Boulder where he just went wilder on his guitar than normal. And I was with my friend Bob Furbish, who's a master producer and recorder, people live and stuff, did a lot of Slim Cessna, 16 horsepower, even the first Fluid album and many more. But he had older sisters who got forced, I guess, by mom or something to take little Bobby along when they saw Jimi Hendrix.
Poor guy.
He saw the Doors as a kid.
Wow.
He saw all this stuff. So by the time he was in high school, he was an ace photographer of all the live shows and stuff. But he'd seen Hendrix. He'd seen the others. He had his opinion. Junior was just going so far over the top, even for him. I looked at Bob. Bob, is this the best guitar player you've ever seen? And Bob was a buddy of Tommy Bolin and stuff. And he looked at me and said, yep, this is the best guitarist I've ever seen. And this is somebody who saw Hendrix and all the really wild local bands Tommy Bolin had in Denver and stuff.
Man, let's move on here. Let's see what we got. Sunday, the Lord's Day.
Oh, yeah. So in other words, they start this on the day your TV guide arrives during the week. So the beginning of your week is Thursday or something, or
it starts on Saturday and ends on Friday. Yeah.
Thus we have, there's that Davy and Goliath one you were talking about.
Yeah.
There's Bullwinkle. I don't see Mass for shut-ins.
It's on.
Nor do I see, what's his name, Norman Vincent Peale, who had one of the early mega churches and TV broadcasts out of Manhattan. And guess who went to his church? He was kind of prosperity gospel, I guess, even though that wasn't the name of it at the time. God helps those who help themselves. So by all means, help yourself again and again and again.
So Fred Trump?
And the children.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, Dirty Donnie Trump-a-Muck was raised in Norman Vincent Peale's church. Peale even did Donald and Ivana's wedding and stuff.
Ugh.
Refused to do the Maples wedding. But what I'm getting at is people think, yeah, it's obvious Trump just only worships himself, but some of the crazy things he does and the people he cozies up to, you kind of wonder if there's some really scary religion hiding in there too. Moving the embassy to Jerusalem, trying to get the settlements expanded, trying to pick a nuclear war with Kim Jong-un until one day they fell in love. So maybe we'll just do one with Iran instead. What? Nobody ever asks him when he's just mouthing off and saying wacky things like how we should all shoot up bleach to cure ourselves of COVID-19 or, all kinds of other wacky things like Biden hates God and he's going to ban suburbs. That's the time to ask him if he believes in the end times. Because Pence does. Pompeo does.
Oh, yeah.
That was James Watt's rationale for wanting to drill and clear cut and strip mine everywhere. What about our children at a press conference? Well, by then we will have seen the second coming of the Lord.
Yeah.
W. Bush and all those people, they're end times people.
Yeah.
Is Trump an end times guy? And then what's he going to do? I think people have a right to know that kind of thing.
Yeah. I said when that footage came out of Pompeo, who was speaking at some conservative event, flat out talking about end times, I was like, I think if you believe in the end times, you should be disqualified from being the Secretary of State. Like, that seems like a disqualifying belief.
Well, there's also on the previous album I did with my band, Guantanamo School of Medicine, it's called White People and the Damage Done. And one of the songs on there is called Crapture. Real pretty one, like Moon Over Marin. It's a happy song. Look up in the sky, right-wingers flying by, just like Chick Comics said they would. Dear Lord, they're all stark raving nude. The whole idea being, if it is the rapture and it is the end times, what's so bad about Armageddon if those people finally leave and then we can put the planet back together in peace?
Yeah, it sounds nice to me.
Pro-rapture. Pro-apocalypse.
I'm a big fan of Apocalypse. Let's move on. So Sunday, you had a lot of...
talk show about Yale football?
Yes. This is interesting. There's an NBC News special. This is before Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. It's 1966. That's about the summer of 1966, Chicago and Cleveland racial discontent. And to your point earlier, this is a pretty good presentation of what the world was like at the time. It's sort of real news, If I look at it compared to the way that the protests were being covered recently, it's night and day. I mean, this is...
Oh, very much so, yeah. I mean, you can imagine how shattering that was, even though I already didn't think much of Vietnam. And because of Vietnam, even in fourth grade in 68, everybody, well, I guess the election was actually in fifth grade, but even starting fourth grade during the primaries, every kid on that playground was either for or against the war. And there were like Nixon's the one buttons. That was his slogan at the time that came back to haunt him when people bought up the old stickers and put them on their cars after Watergate. Yes, he's the one. And there was Rocky buttons for Rockefeller, and there was McCarthy buttons, and very pivotal election. I mean, one of the things that just tears my insides out is, believe it or not, with naming a band Dead Kennedys, that's still the Kennedy killings and Martin Luther King, or just in Kent State, are some of the most, they just rip my guts out like few other events in my entire life. And still to this day, especially thinking, where would we be now if Bobby Kennedy had lived and Nixon was never president?
It's an maddening sort of thought experiment.
Would any of us even be alive, let alone born, if Nixon was president during the Cuban Missile Crisis?
I don't think so. I'd say no.
No. You didn't even need end time shit with him. He was one of the great screen monsters, and people voted for him anyway.
Have you seen the documentary The Night James Brown Saved Boston?
No, I've heard about it. I'll bet I know what it's about. He went through with the show after Dr. King was killed.
Yeah, they scrambled to have the show televised on our PBS station so that everyone would stay at home because they didn't want riots. And it's fascinating because it's these sort of old money Brahmin, Boston, old money blue bloods that have to go to James Brown and sort of beg him to do this show so that the city doesn't burn down. And it's just fascinating.
Well, I remember seeing footage on the news a night or two afterwards showing James Brown trying to calm people down and stuff. And of course, looking back on it now with knowing more, as much as we all go up and down with the behavior and everything else of the Kennedys, you got to give it up to Bobby for going through with it when he finds out Dr. King has been murdered and he's supposed to speak in a black neighborhood in Indianapolis. And rather than turn around and go the other way, he had to break the news to him.
Yeah.
No idea what he was going to say.
That footage is heartbreaking.
Did a fantastic job. He did a great job.
Yeah, that's so difficult to do, and that footage gives me chills every time I see it.
They say if Nixon was never president and he was instead, I don't know whether he would have gotten us out of Vietnam earlier or not, because there's still debate to this day whether his brother was totally into escalating that war or the opposite. Oh, here's the candy cupboard ad.
Yes.
Okay, on we go. We got to look at these shows.
I am noticing that every night this week on one of the UHF stations, they're playing The Outer Limits.
Vietnam Weekly Review, and I'll bet it's not in Vietnamese either. Lassie, yet another kid show I never watched.
It's so boring.
There was also a lot of shows. It didn't occur to me, even in teenagerhood, that you could look at the guide and challenge your parents on what to watch and request something else. It just never occurred to me. So they picked the shows, and some of them were going, oh, the Virginian again, whatever. Bonanza, not bad, but it's past your bedtime. They moved Band from Uncle to 9, so I couldn't watch it anymore because it was too late and stuff. But they hit me to Perry Mason, and then one of the reasons I wanted a guide from this year is to discuss the greatest show in the history of television to this day. What it did for me then, what it does for me now. Batman. What a great show.
It's great. People forget that it was only on for 2 seasons. It was this phenomenon in 2 years that it aired twice a week.
Yeah, and then they cut it down to 1, and every last washed-up movie star who hadn't worked in years wanted to be a villain, and they were trying to accommodate them all, and not all of them were that well thought through, and as much as you'd love to see Tallulah Bankhead as a Batman villain, she was, 1.5 feet in the grave by then. It was too bad. I mean, there's some that didn't get isn't there only one episode of The Bookworm?
Yes.
Roddy McDowell, what a great villain the Bookworm was. Vincent Price got a few more as the Egghead, but some of those incidental ones were good, but the main ones, I mean, 3rd grade, you got to write a paper about what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman. This was 2 years before Chicago 68. And I want to be a baseball player. The girls, I want to be a nurse. Me, I want to be the Penguin. I want to be the Riddler. I didn't quite aspire to be the Joker as much, but God, I identified with the Penguin and the Riddler. Those were my role models. They were good role models. I mean, it actually derailed me away from the Walter Mitty ambition I'd had before that the other kids didn't have, because I'm not only grateful I got to experience all the events and everything and actually experience the 60s in the 60s. Even as a kid, I was a newshound kid in a political town that eventually was overrun with thousands of hippies that we were supposed to be all scared of, but I was fascinated by, and anti-war protests right across the street at the University of Colorado. Pretty cool stuff. And music was just doing so many awesome things. My parents were mainly classical people, and there was some Pete Seeger and Joan Baez, and my dad had a Japanese kabuki music I later dug out when I was a pothead and listened to it again. This is still really cool. And only George Harrison listened to this. It almost sounds like Hawkwind or something. But the Azuma Kabuki Musicians, a United Nations thing, was on Columbia Masterworks, and it was still in print in the 80s too. Amazingly, because it was on Columbia Masterworks, the classical label. But anyway, trying to get me to go to sleep one night, fall of 2nd grade, 1965. They bring a radio in. rock and roll. Leave it there. I like that. Leave it there. Leave it there. Leave it there. And then there was no stopping me. I quickly went for the hard stuff, but identified with other people or adults with the Beatles because that was the one band they knew. And I knew full well that they were the one with all the impact going on. I think saw Hard Day's Night fairly when it was current and stuff. And, but on top of that, and hopefully in this guide in 66, there was a primetime TV rock and pop show called Hulabaloo. And for some reason, my parents turned it on and we watched it. And I can't even remember whether I discovered rock on the radio yet or not. But there they were. I mean, there was Paul Revere and the Raiders. There was Mitch Ryder and the Detroit Wheels, Young Rascals. Stones were on. Beatles were on once. They had the Turtles on once, lip syncing while some fish were swimming around because they were supposed to be underwater. I'm amazed at how vividly I remembered these because, of course, I didn't see Hullabaloo again until I was maybe pushing 40 or so. And the same friend in Chicago turned me on to Wesley Willis, had DVDs of Hullabaloo. And that was very emotional to me as well. Like, oh my God, how much of this made me what I am today. And I'm so fucking thankful and so fucking grateful for that show. And some of it was lip synced, which I didn't know when I was a child, of course, when I decided this is what I want to be when I grow up. I want to be doing this. I want to be on the A-Go-Go at the end of Hullabaloo. They only showed it once first on, and that was when Sam the Sham was on. But normally it was at the end, the culmination, the crowd was up close. They had two women dancing their asses off in lit cages. One of them was my first crush, Leda Edmond Jr., who had the longest hair I'd ever seen. And boy, could she dance. And she made records, too. She even got to do one of her records on Hullabaloo. And like, whoa, this is good. You know, it's not guitar music, but it was basically kind of kitschy white soul. And she knew what she was doing. Imagine how I felt later when I had some babysitter later on, a few years later, watched The Dating Game in the afternoon. And Leda Edmond Jr. was supposed to pick The Bachelor. Oh. So, God, she's still so amazing. Looking at her and knowing who she is and what she's done. Why can't I be old and she'll pick me? Nope. You know, but and Mitch Ryder even invited the whole audience onto the stage with the band, which made me wonder why there were 30 people in his band. I didn't understand things then. Imagine how heartbroken I was when I asked my dad, like 2 months later, why haven't the Beatles left Denver yet? They're still playing on the radio. Everybody played live on the radio. And no, it's just records. It's just records.
I mean, that makes sense, though.
That pretty fast, though.
I think Hullabaloo's on Tuesday night. Let me move along to Tuesday and see who is on this week.
Forget how deadly great Eric Burdon and the Animals were on that show.
Oh, yeah.
And still is today.
Yeah, if people go on YouTube and look for the version of House of the Rising Sun, it's the Hullabaloo clip is usually the one.
Well, here's the Eric Burdon also to look for on Hullabaloo, or not. It's like 73 or 75 or something. He was trying to make a comeback as a solo artist. This was after he was in war, and they had him on Don Kirshner's rock concert. And it was hard to be really raw and sweaty as you were on In Concert, because that was the one ABC shot in the raw in front of a real audience and rekindled my ambition. You know, the first thing on was Alice Cooper, and I was like, oh my God, why can't I be this? If I want to be this. But and then Midnight Special was a lot more choreographed, contrived, but not always lip synced though. And none of them were lip synced really for the most part. But Don Kirshner, about the coolest thing ever on that show was some footage. I don't think it was even at his own place of this Eric Burdon band straight out of the gate. And it was the three African-American guys, a power trio that was his band on his Sun Secrets album that came out a little bit later. But I run down and listen to the Sun Secrets album. Oh, it's finally out. This doesn't sound anything like what I saw. None of these songs are on here. The stuff, now that it's on YouTube and I've seen it again, My memory was right. It's damn near Black Sabbath or even some Stooges stuff going on.
Wow.
In there. It's the fiercest, most primal stuff he ever did.
Oh, I need to check that out.
Sometimes screaming when he should have been singing in his magic voice because he was just possessed and stuff. People didn't sweat on those shows except for in concert, but he sure did.
Yeah, I mean, in concert was, to your point, they played live. They always played live, and that was unusual.
I mean, another way to look it up is one of the songs was called, I think, You Stole My Heart or She Stole My Heart. And another one was called, that I think was the last one, complete with the montages coming in and out of war stuff and the Vietnamese Buddhist priest setting himself on fire in the middle of Don Kirshner's show. And the song was called River of Blood.
Man.
One of those things that you see it and you never forget it.
Yeah.
You don't forget the riffs either. So I'm so glad I found it on YouTube, and the same Bob Furbish I saw Junior Brown with, he played with it at his studio and then sent me a CDR. And now that all four of those songs, they sound really, really good.
Oh man, I can't wait to check that out myself, because that's
another really good one on Don Kirshner was a band nobody had heard of at the time called UFO. And they're kind of forgettable hard rock, right? Not here. Again, I mean, it was footage they brought in from Europe, European crowd, European venue, sweaty energy and edge in the room. And they opened with a song that was never on one of their albums. Huh. And again, it was so good. I never forgot the song and wondered where this damn thing was. And oh my God, there it is on YouTube. I think it's called Give Her the Gun or something. Version of Rock Bottom they did that night too. It's like, yeah, that's all the UFO I'll ever need, but god damn is that footage good. Michael Schenker without a shirt on is the guitar player on that.
I remember seeing the Cars on Midnight Special, I think, and they were allowed to curate the show, so they brought Suicide on. Alan Vega's Suicide. They're on NBC's Midnight Special playing Cherie Cherie and Ghost Rider, and it's crazy.
Oh, that's awesome. I got to find that one.
That's up on YouTube. It's amazing.
Something special on the Midnight Special.
Yeah, it's one of the few episodes of Midnight Special that I'm like, okay, this is something.
I mean, a completely unknown Montrose did Rock the Nation on there. And I realized immediately, oh my God, this is way better than when Montrose was with Edgar Winter. Wow.
So there's a few highlights.
That whole album's so goddamn good. Well, number one, they had Van Halen's producer before he produced Van Halen. And like that Dead Boys album we all love with Sonic Reducer on it, it was cut really fast as a demo and not meant to be released. And for once, even a major label has some sense in their heads. Like, why do we need to re-record this? Let's just put this thing out because it is such lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, Young, Loud, and Snotty. I think that's the Dead Boys record, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like Hulabaloo is on this week. Instead, they're
somewhere. I did try to skim it a few days ago. I didn't have time to really look into it. But.
Yeah, they're showing Girl from U.N.C.L.E. Instead.
Boy, she was on that early in 66. I thought that was a little bit later.
Yeah, must be the first season.
I think she was only 30 minutes, wasn't she?
60. This one's 60. This episode is the Mata Hari affair.
There you go. I saw one of the other Man from U.N.C.L.E. from the one season that was black and white, because that was another one of my all-time favorite shows and stuff. Never forgot it. And one of my best friends then named Nels had blonde hair, so I could be Napoleon, he could be Elia. I'd found these wraparound shapes dumpster diving behind a fraternity, so we stalked through the bushes around his or my house pretending we were the Man from U.N.C.L.E.
You may enjoy this story. I used to run Q&As at a lot of conventions, and I was doing a Q&A with Mark Goddard from Lost in Space, and Adam West was there, and they got into a fight.
Oh my.
This was like 3 years ago. So these guys are in their 70s or something. And I forgot that Lost in Space and Batman 66 were up against each other on two different networks. And these guys were still mad about it.
Jesus. Well, considering how long those shows ultimately lasted, and neither one of them really got to move on to the bigger things they thought they might, I don't know how it would feel like Adam West and having to appear at car lot openings dressed in a Batman suit when you're 60 or 70 years old to pay your bills. I mean, I think Burt Ward had some success in business or something and didn't look back.
Burt Ward wrote a book called Boy Wonder that is literally just 500 pages of him bragging about all the women he slept with.
Well, there you go. The record he ever made was produced by Frank Zappa, too. I've never heard the record, never seen it. Oh, there you go. They've got 77 Sunset Strip on. I thought that was a much earlier show. Maybe it was a rerun. And it was another one of those 30-minute ones that should have been 60, right?
And Route 66 here, this is the weird thing. It starts at 4:45.
Wow.
That's odd.
That's another one. Later, my same friend Bob in Denver had way more cable TV than anybody else. Nick at Night starts, and he immediately gets hooked on Route 66. So then whenever we go over to Bob's, it's Route 66 time and stuff. And he had really nice video recording equipment. So he was slowly grabbing everything he wanted to go with his entire cupboard of Fassbender movies he'd gotten on the fly and things like that. And so we were I haven't had a Route 66 phase in a while, but that's a deep show. That's a great show.
Yeah, Shout Factory put out a beautiful Blu-ray set of them recently, and they look amazing. It's well worth watching.
And are you aware why they had to change the character on the last season? And
no,
they didn't Buzz Murdoch anymore and had this guy named Lincoln instead.
No,
played by Corbett. Remember what an intense psychodrama episode it was when Buzz Murdoch, played by George Maharis, who was, quite the hot, young, hunky star. At least they were trying for that. Lead actor in Satan Bug, too.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, and very Henry Rollinsy in appearance and stuff. You put that dude on Henry, and Maharis' dude on Henry, you've got that dude, basically.
Yeah.
And with the same kind of real intense edge, because that was what they wanted on the Buzz Murdoch character. He goes back to, and he's an orphan, and he goes back to some place and sees some old friend from that and realizes the guy is hooked on heroin, which was not your normal primetime TV stuff, especially this graphic, and just screaming at him and trying to do an intervention and trying to get him clean. And then Bob turns to me, yeah, I'll bet he's really playing that part well because he was probably high on smack when he did it. Unfortunately, George Maharis got hooked on heroin and they had to fire him before the last season.
Oh man, that's method. I forget who I was talking to. They worked on Dragnet. Jack Webb had a major drinking problem. And so they would film
Kind of a relief to hear, isn't it? Jack Webb, an alcoholic.
Yes.
You know who else died of alcoholism later on in his life?
Who?
Elliot Ness.
Oh, that guy's probably seen some shit.
Died of alcoholism and was eventually fired out of that federal office for being drunk several years later.
That's why he needed prohibition. He was tempted too much.
Yeah, but when I really got into that show, I was thinking, this is so ridiculous. A lot of these are drive-bys, and it's all over beer.
Yeah.
Whiskey and even champagne and stuff. And like someday, all these drive-bys that are killing, especially the African community and American people of color that are portrayed in the hip-hop songs Tipper wants to ban because they're violent, even though they're like talking about reality and stuff. And this is all because of prohibition.
Yeah.
And someday all this prohibition is going to have to be gone. People think, oh yeah, it's always nuts when they say they should legalize heroin, legalize methamphetamines and crack. No, you decriminalize it. Alcohol's not legal. It's decriminalized where you only get it on prescription like they do in Holland. And when you want to get off that stuff, rehab is right there for you, and they will help you. Not a line 6 months to a year long in San Francisco for people in the ghettos' lives are falling apart because they're on crack or whatever.
And encouraging organized crime to have an empire, basically.
Right. Yeah, I kind of wonder how much of our own intelligence community is partly responsible for the rise of the Mexican cartels. There's that, they couldn't control them anymore.
They had to do something because alcohol was legal, so they had comedy clubs.
And burlesque.
And it's just
more than burlesque.
Yes. Yeah. And it's bizarre.
I mean, one thing we can thank Red Fox for, besides that amazing portrayal on Sanford and Son, as well as those lovely filthy records he put out before that, was he really went to bat to get his peeps from the Chitlin circuit roles in that show, so he could get some money. Grady was an established Chitlin circuit comedian. Can't think of his name. And one of the filthiest mouths on that whole circuit, supposedly worse than Blowfly, was LaWanda Page, who played Aunt Esther.
I believe it. I 100%
love to see LaWanda Page live. And whoever told me that said, yeah, she's still doing it. 15, 20 years after Sanford and Son, she's very, very old, but she does her comedy and she's still utterly filthy.
You may be the only person who may have heard of this that I know, but I discovered that Robert Mitchum's younger sister was a dirty musical comedian in the 60s. And she played all these clubs doing dirty filthy comedy songs.
Probably not Belle Barth.
I don't think that was the name she used.
Ruth Wallace.
Maybe?
Who kind of looks like Robert Mitchum a little bit.
I'll find her name.
Risque more than she was explicit, although risque enough that, Tipper and Susan Baker, he wants to ride your dinghy. They know what, know what that the boat is and stuff. So
this was explicit apparently, and Mitchum used to travel around with her sort of as her manager, and I guess it was just filthy.
Mitchum gets more and more fascinating the deeper you dig into him. His pot conviction and fact that he drove the tabloids nuts, I guess, because he stayed married to the same woman he'd met before he was famous till he died.
Yeah, there's a great
the woman loved and had no use for all the other people throwing themselves at his feet.
Friends of Eddie Coyle is one of my favorite movies ever, but there's I've been watching a lot of the old Dick Cavett shows, and they're all up on YouTube, and there's a 2-parter with Mitchum, and it's amazing. He talks about how he worked at Lockheed Martin, and one day he went blind working because he had just had enough, like literally went psychosomatically blind, and then decided to go into acting. Like, it's this crazy story.
Yeah, because I'd heard he wasn't a trained actor, and he just kind of, try out for this. Oh my God, look at that face, that voice. You're hired.
But he had a photographic memory and did everything in one take. It's crazy. Like, the guy was amazing.
Also known for that, of course. Ronald Reagan.
Oh, really?
I mean, that was why he was so dependent on the cue cards and stuff, because he could just glance at a page of script and remember the whole thing and regurgitate exactly what he was supposed to, or being tough on communism or whatever, and just do it on the spot. That's why, I think he knew he wasn't president, but he was an evil enough guy that he knew what he was fronting for and what these people were doing. And he was just, an actor being the president delivering his lines. I mean, it's almost worse that the other one who's never really president in our time was George W. Bush, only he was so dumb he thought he was.
I'm the decider. What do we do, Uncle Dick?
I want to land this plane. The irony of Reagan having a photographic memory is kind of amazing.
He was a total savant like that.
And
Wesley Willis a savant, but Reagan was an idiot savant.
Yeah, I've seen the monkey movies.
He descended, or at least at some level, from some of the people who survived the Donner Party.
Hopefully they're survivors. He may have descended from some of the people that didn't. Where are we? Wednesday. Anything else in here? Do you want to keep scrolling and see if anything else catches your fancy?
Green Acres. We watched that. That was fun.
I love that show.
In many years. Although, back when she was still a right-wing party hostess of the mostest, when she was down with Newt Gingrich and everything, Ariana Huffington. And I kept imagining her, just like Eva Gabor's character in Green Acres. Okay, now you run for speaker, Nutsi. Come on, Nutsi, let me do this. Oh, come. Then she flips around and she's this big lefty and stuff, supposedly. Although she apparently pocketed like a 9-figure sum for Huffington Post. And do the writers ever get paid at all? I don't know.
Nope. You got paid in exposure.
Right. There you go. That's why I didn't write for him. I was asked. But anyway, plus I'm terrible at writing shows and I take too long. But then I'm part of Free Speech TV. The one time they had me as one of the roving reporters for the 2000 political conventions, the Republican one in Philadelphia and then the Democratic one in L.A. I can't remember which one it was, but there was an Ariana Huffington party. And so I went to the party, and then as soon as I got there, somebody told her who I was, or that I was somebody important or something. And what voice comes out of her mouth? Like, oh, come this way. Come. We must have picture. I'm like, oh my God, I was right.
Oh man, here we are, Batman, and the villain is
You even highlighted it in blue. Who we go? Shelley Winters is Ma Parker. Yeah, that was when they had too many villains and stuff, and not all of them were all that good. Are you aware Neil Hamilton, who played Commissioner Gordon, was kind of a matinee idle dandy guy in movies in the 30s?
Yes, like Vincent Price.
And many of those were, didn't before they made him a police commissioner, didn't he murder somebody in Perry Mason too?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So not the best villain, Shelley Winters, but to your point,
killed 2 people on Perry Mason.
Leonard Nimoy, Boston guy.
There you go.
Where are we here? So that's the first Batman. I don't know if this is when they had 2 episodes back to back on the next day.
That they just had the one. I don't know. Well, no, 66. I think there's going to be. I think I remember the Ma Parker one. Yeah, I think there is another one.
And then I Spy, of course, with noted monster Bill Cosby.
Oh yeah. Well, he broke the color barrier with that show.
He did. He was responsible for black stuntmen existing in Hollywood.
Oh, there you go.
Before that, and this
that's
is
a heartbreaker. What turned out to be with him, but
it was crazy to me to learn that up until I Spy, they would have white stuntmen in blackface.
Oh my God,
which is crazy.
Such a lily white suburban high school in Orinda, California. They put her in blackface in a musical once.
Oh,
they needed a black character.
My God.
Yeah, you didn't have to tell me that, but now that you did, you'll never live it down. I got a 77 Sunset Strip. It must have been 5 nights a week by then.
Yeah, these are repeats, I think. So it's 3:30. It's airing in the afternoon.
There's the Monsters, which I never saw back then. I mean, there were these other ones that the kids all knew. You don't watch the Addams Family? I don't know what the Addams Family is. I've seen about half an episode of that and the Munsters and stuff, and that's it. Wasn't like gone in to buy DVD boxes for exorbitant amounts of money or anything like that. But, they were fun. They were good. Although later, when people are just so shocked, you never seen Charlie's Angels? You never saw the Partridge Family? You never saw the Brady Bunch? I never wanted to.
Yeah.
By that time, I was old enough to go back in my room, smoke pot, and listen to cool records. I didn't want to watch that stuff, but not only that, neither did anybody else in my family. Not even my younger sister wanted to see that stuff.
That means your parents did something right.
I successfully escaped all of that, and then I moved out here, and Dead Kenny started, and I didn't own a TV for 4 or 5 years after I moved here. So there's all kinds of stuff I blissfully ignored.
Is there anything you missed out on that you did feel like you wanted to go back and try and watch?
Well, I sure dropped the ball on trying to somehow save all those documentaries that they were doing on Al Jazeera America before that network disappeared.
Yeah, they got to exist somewhere.
I mean, Q&As with Native American teenage girls who'd been pulled into prostitution for the North Dakota fracking boom.
That's insane.
It was insane, especially for them. And, the stuff like that, you wouldn't even have seen that in the Vietnam era.
No.
This was like genuine muckraker stuff, and they had the Sultan's money to make it all. And I never got around. I mean, there's so many things piled up. I've never watched all kinds of documentaries, and I almost make a point of not watching any documentary on any band that I actually knew. Because, hey, wait a minute, these memories are up here. What do I need this other thing for of people commenting on them when I know these people? There's been a rash of good ones lately, though. Turn It Around, the one about the East Bay punk scene that spawned Rancid and Green Day and Shrimp Shrine and everybody else and stuff, and Neurosis and Op Ivy and all that. That's a great one. well done, well put together, very intelligent. And yeah, it was Green Day's money behind it, thus high production value, but it's not a Green Day puff piece. And they realized they needed to go back further and cover 77 in San Francisco too. So I think the people there did an excellent job. And right around the same time, out comes Industrial Accident.
That's amazing.
Story of the Wax Trax label. And, again, in this case, it's Jim Nash, the co-founder's daughter, and her husband finished the movie, and they never made a movie in their lives. And it is so well made. And I guess they got a 21-year-old who wanted to be a movie editor even when he was a child. Did an incredible job. You feel the energy, you feel the electricity of both the Denver Wax Trax store, then the Chicago one, then the bands. Get to see Al Jorgenson looking all new romantic, talking a fake English accent about how artistic they are. And then, and they brought me out to the premiere in Chicago, which was like a high school reunion for a lot of the people in that scene and stuff. And kind of honored at the end. They consider me family and stuff, both because of Colorado and because of Allard and connecting with Al and Paul Barker and everybody and stuff. And so they show, the new romantic thing. I'm just kind of snicker. And then they cut to Al Jorgenson today. And there were dozens of audible gasps in the theater.
Because Al has about 45 pounds of metal in his face.
Among other things.
Yeah, among other things. That is a great one. I also just watched the one about Roland S. Howard. That one was pretty good as well, in the birthday party.
Yeah. Am I in that?
I
can't remember because I can't remember if I was hit up for that one or not.
You may be. I see you in so many, it's hard to keep them straight.
And I do have a rule that sometimes drives people off, but it also eliminates a lot of people who never finish their projects. You're doing a book, especially if it's about punk or politics or whatever, or you're doing a documentary movie, I'm the last person you interview.
Yeah, that's a perfect rule.
85% of them, many very well-meaning, who had really good ideas, but they don't finish their project. Only so much time in the day.
Yeah, you don't want to be sitting in some vault that never gets released.
No, I can get kind of thorny about that at times.
Do you have a favorite TV theme song? Is it Batman?
That's a good one. Well, the incidental in Spider-Man, I love that. I'm trying to think of TV versus movies too. Because right around the time I blundered into surf instrumentals and rock and sax instrumentals, because I was trying to find more what was then called 60s punk singles, garage rock singles, and just going off the names and the titles. And, another magic accident happens. I start really liking these instrumentals. And Ray and Klaus were 10 years older than me, so they knew how to play that stuff. And so it was kind of my secret weapon for writing songs for... Agent Orange obviously knew it too. And boy, oh boy, I'm blocking on some. I'm way too small time, and maybe I'll finally write it someday, but I've got one good James Bond movie theme song in me.
Oh, nice.
What I do about the lyrics, but I got the music for it.
That is
sung by a woman, but I can always do it myself. The only way I can record it, which is probably the only way, is to show it to my band someday, and we'll do it.
I just recently found out that the James Bond theme, the dun 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 dun, is reappropriated from a musical.
Yeah, I think it's credited to Monty Norman rather than John Barry. Maybe Barry from Monty Norman's musical. I don't know.
I heard the original, and it's crazy. It's played on a sitar, and it's an Indian character playing it, and it's just bizarre.
Wow. Yeah, Barry is one of the greats, of course. Like Elmer Bernstein or Ennio Morricone or Henry Mancini, he was so much in demand that a lot of the stuff he scored is scored with absolutely horrible disposable pablum and stuff. But the good stuff is so good and so important too. And it didn't start with James Bond. He had a rockin' 7-piece instrumental band in the late 50s, maybe the early 60s, who had hits in England, the John Barry 7.
Oh, wow.
He was a trumpet player.
Huh.
a guitar player. He's a trumpet player. And so, he did sheet music. He could conduct, that's what he did. And there's a really, really amazing juvenile delinquency / film noir movie in England called Beat Girl.
Oh, yes. Marianne Faithfull? Is Marianne Faithfull in it?
He's not in that. No. You're thinking of Adam Faith, one of the main stars, who was a kind of a teen idol who actually had a rock reputation, although it kind of faded when the Beatles kind of took over and stuff. But he had like longer hair and bangs, fluffy, and he was blonde. So at the very least, he sure had a lasting impression on Boris Johnson. Well, maybe not as big an impression as Captain Kangaroo, but I digress. Though Adam Faith is juvenile delinquent on a motorcycle, just like he is in the other great British juvenile delinquency noir movie, Never Let Go. Peter Sellers in a dramatic role, literally tearing up the scenery, literally, as this guy running an auto theft ring out of his garage, and who will, if he has to kill you to get you out of his way, he will, and who slowly but surely goes insane as the law closes in, and one driver, played by Richard Todd, who was supposed to be cast as James Bond, or at least Ian Fleming wanted him, but they went with the unknown Sean Connery instead. Todd would have been good. Connery was the guy, though, obviously. But anyway, that movie's really good, too. Also scored by John Barry. But the reason I mentioned Beat Girl is that same low E string guitar twang is all over that movie, too. And I believe the band in the steamy little nightclub, there's a trumpet player at the front. So I think it's the John Barry 7 actually playing in the movie, too. That Beat Girl soundtrack is, just about the best rock and roll soundtrack I've ever heard.
Oh, I have to hunt that down.
How could this not have gotten Barry the James Bond gig? The spook jazz is there in Never Let Go as well, and he scored both movies at the same time. But as far as I know, but Beat Girl is like, okay, this is just deadly. Once heard, you don't forget this theme ever.
I have a whole list now of things I need to watch and listen to. I also, and speaking of sort of
reissued the LP for Beat Girl, that label Ace in England.
Oh yeah. Oh, they do great stuff. All the James Carr stuff they put out was, but I always think about what James Bond would have been like if Patrick McGoohan had taken the role, because they offered it to him.
Huh. I don't know if that was before or after Richard Todd.
Yeah.
Oh God, what is the name of this movie? And I'm spacing on it. Something Road or Highway something. British truck driver noir.
Huh.
Not the one with Victor Mature, Diana Dors in it that they're about to show on Turner, but this one is dump truck drivers making these endless runs between a big gravel pit and whatever else, fighting with each other and everything else. And the people in it, that Connery is in it. David McCallum is in it as a young disabled guy who can't work there anymore. And, he had a much wider acting range than people give him credit for. But, who else is in that? Some more of those kind of actors. But then the bad guy is, and the female in it is the same woman who was in Gun Crazy in America before she went back to England for good. Yeah, that's her. And but the villain, who is noticeably physically bigger and more badass built than everybody else in that movie, is McGoohan.
Yeah, he's just, few people go from zero to white hot rage as well as Patrick McGoohan does.
Yeah, and you think, the way he's shot and bodied, Connery's a big dude. McGoohan was quite a bit larger than him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also love...
like Barron Trump is to Donald Trump.
Yes, exactly. It wouldn't fit in the Russian nesting doll. I love the movie These Are the Damned with Oliver Reed, too, as the juvenile delinquent.
Black leather, go, go, go.
Oh, yeah.
Black leather, kill, kill, kill.
Yeah, speaking of big scary dudes, Oliver Reed's up there too.
I haven't seen that movie yet. I have a DVD of it, and I still haven't watched the damn thing.
Oh, it's great. Oliver Reed's amazing.
It is like the other sequel to Village of the Damned, right? Or not?
No, totally different. Yeah. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I had thought it was those evil Hino-looking kids, all grown up even older than in the second movie, Children of the Damned, and now they were teenage delinquents.
Yes, it's just the children from Village of the Damned singing Cars for Kids.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, this is like bikers and Oliver Reed's kind of this like mod biker, evil sociopath, and he's young and like kind of, it's like handsome young Oliver Reed, but like terrifying. It's great. It's one of my favorites.
Oh, here's one that didn't last very long. I mean, we talk about the ones that had really, really good writers, and I think didn't Sterling Silliphant write both for Naked City and for Route 66? I do believe he did, among others. And I don't know the writers on this one, but a couple more like that had really kind of heavy, intelligent plots that you needed real actors for and stuff that didn't last very long. One was called The Man in the City.
I don't know that one.
I don't know whether it even lasted half a dozen episodes. It was Anthony Quinn playing the mayor of a big city with real people with real problems. And the one I remember was so touching there was a janitor at night who was going to have to take this new civil service exam that they knew he couldn't pass because he was either like, I think he was like dyslexic or autistic, or they didn't have a name for it or whatever, but they all loved him and he tried very well to do what he did and he was no trouble and everything. And they were trying to figure out a way to get him through or this guy was going to wind up out on the street. And playing the dyslexic guy after he was this big idol and man from U.N.C.L.E. was David McCallum.
Oh, wow. I mean, he had some good acting chops. And even
he was completely believable as that guy, just utterly believable.
And then he ends up in The Invisible Man in the 70s.
I didn't know about that. I know he's in one of like those, crime lab shows now.
Yeah. He was in a weekly series about an Invisible Man secret agent.
Wow, there you go. Why would they make him invisible when at the height of Man from U.N.C.L.E., he broke Marilyn Monroe's record at MGM for getting the most fan mail?
I don't know. That is kind of weird. Why would you pay him?
And if only he had better musical taste than to put his name on Lawrence Welke orchestra records and stuff.
Yeah, that is weird.
Maher had terrible taste in music too. He was trying to be Pat Boone on his albums.
Oh, why would anyone do that?
Even if he rocked as swingy semi-rock as Mamie Van Doren did, it would have been great.
Oh yeah,
Man in the City, that was a great one. And the other one, soon after I got hip to Perry Mason, then two networks came out that fall with competing, politicized urban lawyer shows. The Young Lawyers was one. I think the Young Doctors was on the same network. Didn't see that one. The one we saw was, because we couldn't get CBS then, was called Storefront Lawyers. And the lead lawyer was played by Robert Foxworth.
Oh.
Robert Foxworth. And it was like Perry Mason, you had the trial, or sometimes you didn't. I mean, the very first episode, the very first thing you see is Dean Jagger walk up and ask somebody in a real estate office, "Are you so-and-so? This so-and-so?" And he kills them. And so then they bring in Robert Foxworth, the storefront lawyers. They'll have to pay him a bunch of money, whatever. Why did you do this? He stole my house. And it documents how real estate scammers go on, just like they did after 2008 and taking people's buildings and stuff. So you really feel for the character by the end. And I think they get a guilty plea on second-degree manslaughter, and that's the end of the program, making it abundantly clear it's not going to be like somebody else jumping up and saying, I did it. At the end of the show. And then we had another one where James Stacey played I think he was like an angry hard hat who got laid off in the interest of affirmative action. The building that's under construction gets blown to pieces, and he gets charged. And then during the witness testimony, it turns out that one of the African-American workers made a mistake and left a valve open by accident. Nobody told me not to do this or whatever.
Right.
And it was like, oh my God, to get this guy off, they have to make the black guy look bad. And which is not what this show was supposed to be, more like a pro-civil rights, pro-justice kind of a show. But it was also, that was the kind of vexing stuff they threw at you every week.
Yeah, I mean, that's complicated stuff. I mean, I really enjoyed, and I don't know if you've watched, have you seen The Good Fight or The Good Wife recently?
No.
They're courtroom drama shows, and The Good Fight is actually like an anti-Trump lawyer show, and it's amazing. But they're the first sort of courtroom show I've seen since stuff like that has these very complicated, nobody wins here kind of things, which are so unusual for television, and it's great.
Dial 999.
Yes.
Not going to get Nick Cash coming in with his guitar and his referee's whistle.
This one has an atomic scientist.
Oh, there's another one of the driving her motorcycle in Tucson. Vicky Russell forces Totted Buzz off the road when she arrested her vehicle. She's just, this wild, free-spirited chick on a motorcycle, just also driving all over the country, but on her own. She loves to fuck with people. And who plays her? Julie Newmar.
Oh.
Yeah.
Love her.
Yeah. Pre-Catwoman, or maybe at the same time. I don't know.
It would have been the same time, yeah.
Yeah, different color hair, though. But she's quite electrifying as this Vicky Russell character, too, to the point where they made her a recurring character.
I have to see that.
Batman again!
Yep, it's the two-parter.
Yeah, Warden Crichton doesn't know, but his prison has been taken over by Ma Parker and her gang. Okay. And no old famous juvenile delinquency film actors in that one. Big Dick Bacallians in some of these. Still, there's Star Trek, which I wasn't supposed to watch because it was too violent, and all the kids were talking about that every week and stuff. But
this is a Richard Matheson written one, and Richard Matheson wrote Last Man on Earth, but also wrote almost as many Twilight Zones as Rod Serling did. And it's weird that they call his name out. They never call out writers in TV Guide. It's kind of funny.
Interesting. Yeah, well, there's Green Hornet, another show that would have been better if it was an hour long. And it was the same producers as Batman, but they just didn't put anything into it, really.
I think they thought they could get by on Bruce Lee.
Yeah, but he wasn't the main guy in there either.
No.
It was the same guy from Hawaiian Eye and another one of those shows I've never seen, Van Williams. What's his name?
Van Williams. Let's see what else we got.
Oh, we're already up to Thursday now. Somebody named Hawk. Oh, and Hawk is played by Burt Reynolds. This is the gangster, and Martin Sheen is in the guest cast. Bradford Dillman, too. What do you know? Nobody else I'd have ever heard of.
No, I didn't even know that.
Somebody plays lab technician, so I don't know if this is a cowboy show or not. There's a chauffeur, too, which presumably means automobiles. Okay, there's that girl. I think my family watched that, but I wasn't that interested in it. I didn't pay that much attention. I mean, I'll say this, though. Part of the reason I have no patience with sitcoms now is, look, this is really funny. It's Friends. This is just stupid. Mad About You know it's another smug yuppie couple in New York. This isn't funny either. None of this is. It's not objectionable. It's not, oh, that's obscene. It's just like,
yeah, the characters aren't struggling.
What kind of comedy do I and did I like? Well, of course, you can get away with a lot more in cartoons. MTV even justified their existence eventually by giving us Beavis and Butthead.
Especially if you grew up on Rocky and Bullwinkle. That show was super subversive.
Oh, yeah. Well, another one that was super subversive when I saw it again on Nick at Night as an adult was Batman. Just the lengths they went to make the mayor and the cops and the police commissioner look so utterly dumb in those things. And then my favorite is the one where the penguin runs for mayor.
Yes.
And there it shows the Penguin campaign headquarters, and Paul Revere and the Raiders are there playing a party for the Penguin. And then they cut to Batman's headquarters, and there he is behind a podium. All we need to stick to here are the issues. And it shows a handful of old ladies asleep on chairs.
Yeah.
Well, yep, they sure nailed that one, didn't they?
It's fascinating to look back at them and see and try to parse out what was just chance and what they knew what they were doing. And that is an example of they certainly knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah, those actors were in a time of their lives and playing those villains too.
Wild Wild West is on the next night, which was a very strange show. I forget.
We did watch Tarzan. Oh yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, we can't show that show anymore, I'll bet you.
No.
Can't show Daniel Boone either. Unfortunately, the damage of stuff like Daniel Boone and some of the other cowboy shows, but especially that one is the one that comes to mind, is they all portrayed the Indians, as they called them, as being these scary, savage people. You run into those, you're walking around in the woods, they will kill you. They're awful, hateful people. And having fallen for this, little My Weekly Reader magazine, they give you a little newspaper for kids and stuff. And there's a little thing that Native American Indians were now wanting civil rights too, showing a sit-in somewhere. And I was like, them? How dare they? Look what they did to Daniel Boone or whatever. So, I was totally brainwashed by that. Same with all the portrayals in those cowboy shows, and then cartoons of the greasy, lazy Mexicans with the bullet belts and the hats and stuff. My parents said around then, hey, we're going to go to Taos, New Mexico for spring vacation. New Mexico! Ah! I was afraid I'd see those guys leaning up against the buildings and giving me shit and stuff. And I was later, oh my God, I let TV do that to me. How smart am I really?
But I mean, you're watching, as a kid especially, you're watching the news, which is real, and you're watching these portrayals of people in these shows, and it's probably somewhat confusing.
Well, but then other kids, then later when Vietnam Veterans Against the War formed, and they actually seized the draft board office and occupied it in Denver, and there it is on the news, and they show that, and then my mother, who ran interlibrary loan at University of Colorado, oh, that's my student John who works for me. She was very excited. She was very proud of him. They still know each other, too.
And it's a big deal to see someone you know on TV.
Yeah, well, she thought he was doing the right thing, too.
Man, is there anything you watch now? Is there anything you're watching in lockdown or any shows you watch now?
Boy, I veer in and out of sometimes, I get zombified by the news stuff. And God, I really should quit watching that. It's one story and that's it. But every once in a while, the Rachel Maddows and even Don Lemons can, hit the nail on the head. And of course, let's not forget Democracy Now! And Free Speech TV and the others. Democracy Now! Is in the middle of a bunch of sports channels. I don't forget to turn it on because it was only on once. But, there's that. And I don't get HBO, so I don't see the Real Time with Bill Maher. I mean, Politically Incorrect was interesting. I've seen a little bit of Bill Maher thing. And I do think, whether you like all his politics or what he does with women or not, he's very good at hitting nails on the head about issues with one great comic joke. Like after the 2004 election, which of course was another stolen one, he said Republicans will do just about anything to win an election except get the most votes. And that's all it took to get that point across so well. And it's so goddamn true that now even Biden has to pretend to pay attention to it. Another one like that, just saying, so much in so few words. There was a Chris Rock special I saw on, and it was 2008. The primaries were going on with Obama and the Hillary monster. And he was like, I'm all for a woman president, just not that woman. Hit the nail on the head right there. And unfortunately for us, because of Trump, too many people agreed. Granted, that election was rigged for Trump, not for him, for whoever was going to be the Republican winner, and all these Tea Party crackpots who weren't supposed to get another term all got in just in time to put Gorsuch and Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court and all. So there you go. On good TV, go stream The Best Democracy Money Can Buy. Greg Palast made a film version of the book he put out in 01 or 02 about how W stole that election in Florida, and then updated it to how the 2016 election was going to be stolen, and then updated it again after it was stolen by the Interstate Crosscheck program. 29 states opt into this thing created by Chris Kobach, that guy, Secretary of State in Kansas, a right-wing wunderkind on a scale that Steve Bannon and Karl Rove can only dream of. That's how dangerous that dude is. And just because he's not going to be in the Senate doesn't mean he's not going to be merely messing with our lives the rest of the time we're alive. But anyway, he got this thing together, and 29 states opted in and gave their entire voter databases to Crosscheck. Puts it all together, and Crosscheck then flags so-called matching names, because that must mean vote fraud.
Right.
And Greg Palast looked into this and got the data. They said, oh, no, we do middle names. We do social security numbers. Well, apparently they didn't. And it was programmed to really look carefully at anybody named Washington, because 3/4 of people named Washington, according to Palast, are African-American.
Yeah.
And then what else? And then, even names like Wang or Chen, let alone if your name is Jose Martinez, all 2,000 of you didn't vote in these 29 states, and you wouldn't know your ballot was thrown out. Where were the black people? They didn't even show up to vote for Hillary in North Carolina. Well, Trump barely, quote unquote, won that state. Well, according to Palast, almost 80,000 people were thrown off the rolls because of Crosscheck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Crosscheck or no Crosscheck, 200,000 to 300,000 people or more, they're just right in our face, throwing the voters off the rolls in Wisconsin and Georgia and other places. So you can't be too smug that suddenly Biden's going to make everything all better. Even if the powers that be really do think Trump is going too far and it could all come down on our heads and we're losing money, even if they find a way to get him out and they too want him out, then it's time to have a blowtorch up the ass of Biden like there never was under Obama, but should have been.
It's scary times, but also could be rising from the ashes if we burn it all down.
Yeah, watch that. You want TV? You want hard-hitting muckraking TV? Watch The Best Democracy Money Can Buy, directed by Greg Palast. Even Ice-T and Richard Belzer appear as their Law and Order characters, talking about how these people are breaking the law.
Again, you get it through comedy. That's how you concisely can get a point across.
Tries to put humor in there as best he can. But, when you find that a longtime veteran of the state legislature in Alabama discovers he's not allowed to vote because he's not on the rolls because he's black, somebody who's related to Dr. King just got they found her thrown off the rolls in either Alabama.
Oh, my God.
In one of these Crosscheck inspired purges. So even if it's like the state of Colorado, where the Tea Party Secretary of State who opted in, and Colorado went so far against Trump the last time, not even Crosscheck could save him in that state. But even though they now have a Democrat as Secretary of State, and everybody in their state should check and see, is your state still in Crosscheck or not? Because if you are, get out. And if you're not, stay out, but spread the word on how these elections are really stolen. Because it's not just getting stuck with 4 more years of the worst president in history, but it's also all the down ballot damage.
Mm-hmm.
All the state legislatures that should be going the other way. And instead of redrawing the congressional districts, so they're like, and McConnell stays as leader, even though people like Senator Gardner and Colorado should lose based on the fact that people hate him so much in Colorado, he doesn't dare do a town hall meeting there. But he might get back in because of this.
It's bizarre, and it's important to not unplug, but sometimes it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, well, those Dr. Joyce Brothers. I thought she was only on game shows. I guess she got to come from somewhere.
Oh, yeah. She was a legit TV doctor who would give advice on the shows.
Here's Man from U.N.C.L.E. Shelley Berman, the comedian, plays Uncle Giuliano, boss of a Sicilian crime syndicate. Neato. I mean, and where does Carol Wayne come from? I've heard that name too. One of the black and white ones I started to mention earlier, I noticed this kind of a striking woman who was the villain's lady in this chalet or whatever that they were infiltrating Turrisitana.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That is a striking woman. One of the most.
They had her in kimonos, but she was still Turrisitana.
Yeah, you can't dress Turrisitana any way that will make her not be Turrisitana.
Exactly. Okay, now we're Friday. All right, might be time for creature features. There's M Squad. That was kind of a disappointing show. It's not as cool as Peter Gunn, even if Lee Marvin is the main character.
I always forgot about THE Cat with Robert Loggia.
Oh my God. I never heard about it before, but there he is. It's half hour probably. Some of these shows hold up, some of them don't. I mean, watched Mannix as a teenager, and that one just has not held up for me.
No, it's awful.
Hawaii Five-0, however, again, it's the villains and the weird-ass fucking plots in that thing.
Yeah, Hawaii Five-0 gets real weird sometimes.
Oh, yeah. All right, on we go here.
And that's it. That's the week.
Oh, right. We have to go clear back to the other Friday to see if there's any creature features on.
In Boston, they would have been on 56, but I don't think we were airing them in 66. I think it started about 72 here. Was there a horror host in Colorado?
Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, they syndicated some now and again. There was the Inner Sanctum ones, with that head in a jar going, even you can commit murder.
Right.
Which weren't really horror. They were more like, low-budget, cheapo shoot-'em-ups. There might have been one once in a while, but nothing like an Elvira or some of the others that they had in the East. No, we didn't have anybody like that as far as we know.
Elvira, Cassandra Peterson, who is from Colorado Springs.
I would hope she knows who else is from Colorado Springs. Not that the city is ever going to admit to either one of them now that it's run over by fundamentalist Christians and stuff. But Lon Chaney Sr.
Was he really? I didn't know that.
Colorado Springs.
Wow. I did not know that.
Colorado Springs, and both his parents were deaf.
I did know that.
Had to really animate and do things to hone his skills at communicating with his parents.
He's another fascinating character.
Getting actor, my God.
And is it who plays in Man of a Thousand Faces? Was it Jimmy Cagney play him?
Yeah, little miscast there. I mean, Cagney's a true great, but everything, I'm on top of the world, Ma! Blam! That's kind of where Trump is right now, isn't it?
Yeah. He's in his top of the world Cagney.
Thrown up and something like that. And then, I had no idea he was a song and dance guy until I saw a little bit of what it was probably Yankee Doodle Dandy.
Mm-hmm.
And my God, what a dancer. What a dude. Whew.
All those guys had to have all those skill sets. They had to do comedy and dance and sing. It was crazy.
Yeah, some didn't. I can't imagine W.C. Fields being much of a tap dancer, but I could be wrong.
He'd try.
I don't recall him ever playing a villain anywhere, a heavy. Well, he played his own kind of villain, and didn't live long enough to be on Batman, or that would have been awesome.
Oh, he would have been great on there, yeah.
Especially if they made the Cowardly Lion into a Batman villain and W.C. Fields played him.
Oh, man, I want to see this show now.
Yeah. I mean, another show I wish they could have done was they pulled the plug on West Wing when Clinton left office. And I was thinking, oh my God, why didn't they just continue it? But President Bartlett got replaced by a totally right-wing wingnut of a guy played by Dennis Hopper.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Man.
Oh. You can still find this cheap in Lincoln if you go over there. You want cool TV themes and stuff. It's mostly British TV shows they never showed over here. Sure, there's Star Trek, but there's Captain Scarlet and the Mysterons. There's Champion Wonder Horse.
Joe 80.
Fireball XL5. Stingray. Oh, man. UFO.
Oh, those Jerry Anderson stuff. The really, really bombastic theme songs.
Entire album, TV, being played by TV orchestras trying to be Man or Astro Man.
That sounds kind of good.
Oh, it's really good. It's really good. Oh, yeah, here we go. Here we go. We have to get to this one, too, don't we? And this one. Oh, yes. Well, first of all, you want weird-ass instrument. Here's one from East Germany. Note the triple-necked communist guitar there. I mean, a lot of it's like kind of not bad rockin' stuff. This is before the wall went up. De Franca Echo Quintet. Den Sputniks are really cool. They're really good. Here you are. All right. First, you have to see the Miss Miller psychedelic album where she's got, green pot brownies on the cover. And sings My Green Tambourine. Oh, yeah. Here you are. There's
Beat Girl.
Your new homework assignment. And I don't know if the movie has ever gone to DVD.
I've seen bootlegs of it, but I've not seen an official one. It might be out in England. Maybe I'll check.
There's old Uncle John on the back, too. Not with his trumpet, but with his sheet music. That's music. Oh, there's Adam Faith, too. And the girl with really long hair who you thought was Brigitte Bardot or whatever. I don't think she made another movie. Shirley Ann Field, I think her name was. And she should have been a star.
We got homework. We got some good stuff to revisit. I'm very excited about it.
Interview Mrs. Miller next.
I'll call her up. I think I could probably dig her up, find her.
Yeah, dig her up, I think, is the operative term.
Hopefully she's not too high from those pot brownies. Cool. Well, thank you so much for doing this. It's been great talking to you. And I have a whole list of things here that I need to listen to and watch, which is always exciting for me.
All right. Well, this was fun. Thank you so much.
There you go. That's Jello. I told you. Fascinating guy. I would be hard-pressed to believe that you didn't know who he was, but if you didn't, now you do. And you should check out his back catalog of music and spoken word stuff and just everything he's done. It's always fascinating. Fascinating guy. Very smart guy. And I had a great time chatting with him. He is also one of the people that you have requested I have on the show. I already had plans to have him on the show, but you did request him. And if you have more people that you would like me to try to get on the show, please email me at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com, or you can reach out to me on social media at tvguidance or at Kenneth W. Reid, KENNETHWREID, on Instagram and Twitter, or go to our Patreon, patreon.com/tvguidancecounselor, and I will do my best to get those people on the show. So literally every single person that you request that I have on the show, if I haven't already had them on the show, which happens sometimes, which I totally understand. I've had like 500 people on the show, so you may not have heard that episode. And if you do request the person I've had on, I will send you a link to that episode, along with a note. I won't just be like, "Here you go, idiot." I will be nice about it. But I will attempt to get that person on the show. I've attempted to get everyone that you've requested, no matter how obscure or how famous, some more successful than others, but I will at least try, because I'm here for you, the listener. And I'll be here again next week for a brand new edition of TV Guidance Counselor.
Taste me, come on and taste me.